Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Go for a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
Streaming December 12th on Peacock. Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie are back
That's hot. Loves it.
for a show-stopping reunion that will prove putting on an opera is anything but simple.
We're really good at this.
One thing's for sure, they won't be upstaged.
Good to have you back. Come on, we've got a show to do.
Paris and Nicole, The Encore, a 3-part reunion special, streaming December 12th, only on Peacock.
Let's hang out. Let's hang out. And let's talk about what lesbians about. Let's hang out. And let's listen to 2 lesbians shout. Let's hang out. Let's hang out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Hang Out, a podcast hosted by the lesbians you'd want to hang out without a lesbian bar.
True.
From the West Coast, I'm Lee Holmes Foster.
And from the East Coast, I'm Ellie Brigida. To those of you who have been with us through this whole journey, thank you as always for listening. If you're a new listener, welcome. We're excited to have you here. Here's what's happening this week.
This week in the Lesdom.
This Week in the Lesdom is a place where we can touch base each episode about things going on with the podcast or otherwise. This week, at the start of Pride Month, we refuse to ignore the injustices that are going on across our country. The senseless, racially charged deaths of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Tony McDade, and Breonna Taylor, along with the many other Black lives lost from police brutality, cannot be forgotten or ignored. So today, while we usually keep our podcast light and fluffy and apolitical, we have to start by acknowledging the protests and riots that are happening in Minneapolis and across our country, and to let you all know that we stand with the Black Lives Matter movement. Never forget that Stonewall was a riot against police and police brutality, and we cannot in good conscience stand up for the LGBTQ community without also standing for the Black community in this tumultuous time. We encourage you all to donate to Black Lives Matter, to do whatever you can to stop injustice when you see it. We could not remain silent about this, and we hope that you choose not to as well. In order to truly appreciate the gravity of the situation that has happened and is happening across our country, we will not be doing any more This Week in the Lesdom updates this week. But we do hope that you enjoy this episode about Henrietta Hudson as we kick off Pride Week and talk about the spaces and people that are so important to our community. Back to you, Ellie and Lee.
Thanks, Ellie and Lee. We are so excited to bring you episode 17. We're getting close to the end here of season 3. God Save the Lesbian Bar.
Please, God save the lesbian bar. And we are
Amen.
thrilled to have an expert here to help us dive into this topic. We're joined today by Lisa Cannistraci. Is that how you say it?
Sure. Yeah.
Lisa, the owner of Henrietta Hudson, the oldest lesbian bar in New York City.
Lisa, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here, Lisa. Henrietta Hudson has had very fond memories for me. I spent my 21st birthday there.
Awesome.
Yes. It's such a great place.
I'm waiting for Lisa halfway through this episode to be like, didn't I kick you out of my bar one time?
She's like, you're banned from Henrietta. So, Lisa, let's talk a bit about Henrietta Hudson. When and how did you start the bar? Because you've been there for a very long time.
That's an interesting story, and it is one of fate. I had no control over it. It just happened. So in the 80s, I bartended on Wall Street, a couple of blocks from the Trade Center, across the street from the American Stock Exchange. So at 4 o'clock, I had 70 stockbrokers in my bar. It was the Wolf of Wall Street days. That movie was not exaggerated. I literally hung out with those guys. I partied with them.
Quite the party.
It was insanity. It was depicted quite well in the film. And I wanted to change the scenery. I wanted to work in the West Village. So back in the 80s, you picked up a paper copy of the Village Voice at midnight on a Tuesday. And that's when the job listings came out. So I picked up a Village Voice, and on Wednesday, I went to a job interview a few blocks north of now that's Henrietta Hudson. I walked in. It was a beautiful restaurant, white tablecloth, very fancy. I was interviewed. The guy said, I really want to hire you, but you look too young. I was 22 at the time, and I looked about maybe 18. I was very upset. I was walking back down Hudson Street south, and it literally, the sky opened up. It started pouring rain. I ran into some random bar to get out of the rain. That is my bar now today. So
Wow.
it's true.
Who's making this movie? That's what I want to know.
That's how we'll make all the money for Henrietta is let's make the movie, mass production. Let's go.
Oh my God. I'll play you, Lisa, because I also look younger than I am. So, you know, it's all going to work out. My agent tells me I could play 18 still, I think.
Well, 22.
Yes, you could. But looking 18.
I ran in to get out of the rain. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This real stone butch bartender, her name was Jeannie Breadwin. And she's like, what are you doing out in the rain, honey? And I remember I ordered a Remy neat and a black coffee. I told her what I was doing. I was looking for work. And she said, we have shifts available. It was the cubby hole. It was the original cubby hole that stood at 438 Hudson from 1980 to 1990. This was March of 85. They offered me the 2 slowest shifts in the industry, which was Monday night and Saturday afternoon. I kept my job on Wall Street. At the same time, I worked at the cubby hole. Within a few months, I was offered very good shifts, the best shifts. I left Wall Street and I worked at the cubby hole from 85 to 90. It closed in 1990. The owner opened another space called Crazy Nannies, which was a block away. A woman came into the bar, the Crazy Nannies, and said, I really like your style. I like the way you bartend. Let's reopen the old cubby hole back up. Her name was Minnie Rivera. We are still business partners today, 29 years. She's about 18 years older than me. Incredible woman, put a lot of faith in me. And she and I opened Henrietta Hudson, Gay Pride, 1991. And the rest is history.
That is such an amazing story.
I have to chime in. If it did not rain that day, I would have gotten on the subway.
Wow. So really, God created Henrietta Hudson.
Yes,
so
the cosmos
God
did. Yes.
will save Henrietta.
Sometimes the gods rain down a flood, and it's all to save the gays, I think, is the point there.
I tell you, I often think what my life would be like, because I was studying to be a clinical psychologist, which really does translate into the bar business, where instead of having 20 patients, I have 20,000 patients or clients or a couple 100,000. But I have to just correct you on one thing. Henrietta Hudson is the longest running lesbian bar in the country.
Wow.
Today. Yes. And I also want to chime in that we do change constantly with the times, and we do reinvent and rebrand and try to keep it fresh and see what's trending and what the community needs. So I no longer call it a lesbian bar. I call it a lesbian-centric queer human bar.
I love that too. We were going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So when did you make that shift? Because I know obviously, like, as the times change, like, identities have shifted, people are much more fluid. When were you like, this is the moment, let's change this, and why?
Okay, January 2013. I remember. I do a ton of activism. I was the vice president of Marriage Equality USA when DOMA was struck down. I was at the Supreme Court with Edie Windsor, not in the Supreme Court, but my group. And of course we won. So I go to a ton of events, and I would grab young queer kids at events and talk to them. And because Henrietta Hudson's iconic status was hurting us in around 2011, 2012, and I'll tell you what the kids told me. I said, hey, would you go to Henrietta Hudson? And they go, no. And I said, why? And they go, it's so old. So I needed to hear that.
The youth.
And they were right. So that was it. It was January 2013. I embarked upon a whole new programming for Henrietta Hudson, a staff refresh, a modern logo, but also keeping the iconic logo, DJs from all over the world, Vegas style burlesque shows. All our go-go dancers were professional dancers, not just drunk people on a bar. More engaging door people. I feel the door person is the most important person.
I love your door, the person.
Yeah, Allison, probably Allison.
Yes. Allison was, yes, I agree.
She's
top
amazing.
of the experience.
Yeah.
She is just such a good human.
Yeah, you have to. I feel like it can be either an entry into joy or it can be a gauntlet, like it's the first thing you see, it's your first experience. So I was finding in 2011, 2012, when I was working on the marriage equality stuff, I was absent from the bar. We had somebody running it, and it got kind of icky. I didn't really like what was going on. I had met with each of my staff individually and told them what my vision was for moving forward. Literally 50% of them were jumping for joy. 50% of them had absolutely no interest in it. They slowly were either walked away or were escorted out. And then replaced with young people who wanted to do the work, be in service, be engaging. And let me tell you something. 2014, I saw a shift. 2015, 2016, the last 3 years we've been open have been the busiest we've been since 1991.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's something that's so great too about because I feel like that is reflective of that willingness to adapt, and grow and change and evolve. And it's I know it's something that I think the queer community in general is always kind of wrestling with, is even for a community of people who are the minority and the outsiders and the other in so many ways, that we can also be resistant to change within ourselves and within our own community, and I think it's something that we're constantly dealing with is how do you remain flexible in your own self, in your own ways, in your own, things that you just have settled into. And so I love that the decision to do that was met by the community and recognized for what it was,
So a funny story. When I opened in 1991, I was open about 3 weeks, and I had this super diverse staff. I had this guy Terry, who just came into New York from Ireland. He was so adorable, this Irish guy, tiny little guy, beautiful face. He loved to cross dress. He was straight, very respectful. He was my cocktail waitress. And a woman came over to me and she said, there's a guy working here. This was in 1991. I said, I know, I hired him. Isn't he great? And she goes, I don't really know how I feel about that. I don't think I'm comfortable with that. And I said, honey, unless you were the Immaculate Conception, at one point there was a man in your life. And she said, well, I don't know if I'm going to come here anymore. And I said, well, I hope you find a space that you feel safe in. And, it's this has been my doctrine since day one. I was so excited when the queer kids came up, the gender nonconforming, non-binary kids, because I needed something to be excited about. I needed something to have interest in. I mean, working just strictly within the lesbian community can be, in any community, you want diversity. Henrietta started as a lesbian bar and morphed into this all-inclusive queer space. Trans folks always felt comfortable at Henrietta's. And one more thing I want to toss in there is that when the queer kids started coming in, some of the older lesbians, some people would ask me, so what do the older lesbians think? How do they feel? In other words, do they feel like their space is being invaded? And you know what? It was the opposite. I saw the most organic fusion of these young queer kids gravitating to the owls, right? The older, wiser lesbians, and vice versa, and chit-chatting and buying each other drinks and hanging off each other. It was because, we set the stage for that. We set the stage for that. If somebody came up to me and said, what the heck's going on? I mean, they would probably use another word. This is a lesbian bar. I would be like, honey, we're still open. Just be grateful. Listen. But me personally, I love the influx of all the diverse pieces of our tribe. It's been great.
I love that so much. And I think it gives us hope that for people who think, oh, we can't connect or agree, there is a space where that is possible if you just put people in the same room.
Absolutely.
With alcohol.
With alcohol and parties. So I think that's like sort of a good lead in a bit to, okay, so let's say, why do we need a physical space? Like somebody might say, which I completely disagree with, but somebody might say like, oh, like people are more accepting, so people can go anywhere. You can go to a straight bar. You can just go hang out at your friend's house. Why is it so important that we have a space that's just for us?
I want to speak. I have a good something to say. So I did a lot of work around marriage equality. I was on Marriage Equality New York, and marriage equality was passed. When marriage equality was passed in New York, the folks in California reached out to us because of Prop 8. Obviously, that was devastating. You have it, and now you don't have it. So the folks in California said, hey, you got marriage equality in New York. Would you consider merging with us? And we were called MEUSA, Marriage Equality USA. And we did it. I knew the whole time that I was fighting for marriage equality that it would have an adverse effect on my business. And I was right. What happened was, what happens? Marriage equality is the law of the land. Lesbians can drink in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, Hoboken, New Jersey, Astoria, Queens. Nobody gives a shit about, like, straight people are not intimidated by lesbians like they are gay men. So lesbians are making out at Applebee's. They're hanging out at a sports bar in Astoria. They're whatever. I knew that was going to happen. I knew it would force me to up my game and make the space more interesting, right? Why are they going to come to the West Village when they can just go up the block and drink draft beer in pitchers or whatever? And that did force me. That was a big impetus behind my rebranding and my reinventing Henrietta Hudson. So I gave them a reason to come. I upped the game of the staff, and it worked. It worked. It's completely different experience when a group of LGBTQ folks commune in a space that is exclusively for them. It's a different experience. And of course you can have a drink up the block, but you can't completely be yourself.
Yeah.
No,
it's definitely a different thing. I mean, I think it's something that we hear from our listeners too. I'm like, there's a million podcasts out there, Why do you need a podcast that's just queer, just dumb queer stuff, us talking queer stuff? But it's like, we hear from so many people who are like, I don't have a lot of gay friends. I don't have like a huge queer community around me. And like, there's just, my straight friends accept me. They are nice. They love me. Like we have a ton of fun together. Yeah. But like, we hear from so many people who are like, I listen to your podcast and it's just, it's something different. There's a different connection, and it's something that you can't find anywhere else. Like you can't find connection with queer people without queer people.
Right.
You gotta have them.
It's a sanctuary. Even before you step in the door, it's just so much love and acceptance and gratitude. Like my staff right now gets that they're in the service industry. A lot of people in the service industry don't like serving people. I remember in the 90s, it was a huge thing in the 90s, the bitchy bartender, the really mean, arrogant, blah, blah. I never subscribed to that. And I would never allow that in my spaces, but it was a thing,
Yeah.
No, it's not a thing for me. No,
You know what's interesting that I found when I've been at Henrietta's, because we've hosted a few events there. You have like the staff is a part of the experience, but there's also a lot of people there who like are going to be there every time you go.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to talk just a little bit about like the regulars, the
Sure.
people who come all the time, and like the community that's built there.
Sure. I can't speak specifically to people too much because I am asleep pretty early at night. I am more of a producer. I'm not the star. I never wanted to be the star. My staff are the stars. The customers are the stars. So I can speak to the community. Like we have a DJ Tika, and Tika has catnip on her. I mean, she attracts the most interesting, artsy, avant-garde group. And she really brought a big queer twist to Henrietta's. I think she's been with me like 4 or 5 years now. She does Sundays and Thursdays. Thursdays is Homo Town, and Sundays is Rec Room with a WRECK. And yeah, this the flavor that comes in. The regulars, like I said, I really can't speak to them specifically because I'm not there and I don't want to be disingenuous.
That's okay. Well, I'll speak to the 2 times that I have been
Okay,
there.
great.
Well, I've been there plenty of other times before we started doing our events when I was in college, but I can tell you I didn't remember a lot of those times or the people that I met.
We were doing our job well.
Yeah. I graduated college in 2014, so it's actually really interesting because you said you did your rebrand in 2013.
Yes.
Ish, right?
Yep.
And that's when I turned 21.
Wow.
So
cool.
I was I would like to think I was a part of your rebrand after we talked.
You are.
You're a child of the rebirth,
I was
Ellie.
I was the one who benefited greatly from it. I loved going to Henrietta's. It was our routine. We'd go into the city and we would start at the cubbyhole, to grab a drink and just sit and talk. And then we'd head over to Henrietta's and we'd go and dance and we'd stay there for the majority of the rest of the night. But the few times I've been there for trivia, I've seen the same people. And I'll look at them and be like, I know you. I met you before.
Right.
Because you walk in and it's there's a lot of different people, but there's also a lot of the same. And I think there's something about that routine, building that routine with people that feels like you're in a space that's your home. And even me being there, I'm from Boston, so I don't go to New York as much as I would like, but even being there a few times, I felt so comfortable.
I love it. I love what I do. I mean, I've been doing it a long time. You have to love what you do. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yes, it comes through.
I put a lot into it.
Do you have specific memories of, because especially now, for a bar that's been around for 30 years, right? I mean, the 90s celebrity, queer celebrities were a very different thing than queer celebrity, culture and awareness and everything now. How has that shift been? And do you have favorite memories of celebrities who have come to the bar or anything?
Sure. I can throw 2 out that are crazy. So it was probably around 1993. It was. And Madonna was by the way, we had a payphone in the corner.
Oh my God.
The phone number was 212-243-9470. And the payphone rang and it was Madonna's people. And they wanted to, this is true, it's a true story. They were looking for androgynous dancers for the girly tour. And they wanted to hang up posters in Henrietta's. Now, that's how it worked, right? There was no fucking internet. So, I can curse, right? So,
yeah, oh, yes.
Okay. So, anyway, they showed up. We hung the posters up. They were they weren't graphically finessed, but we put them up. And she wound up hiring one of our customers, and the customer worked with her for years. But this is the best part. So they said, listen, Madonna wants to go out. She wants to go to all the lesbian bars. Would you take her? And I said, yeah, sure. And I got to be honest with you, I love Madonna, but I was working so hard at the time. I was so tired. It was like a chore because I was exhausted, but I did it. So this is the experience. They show up in a Mercedes, blacked out windows. At the time, she was dating Jenny Shimizu, the model, the Calvin Klein model.
Mm-hmm.
You know who she is, right?
Yeah.
Jenny. So she and Jenny were in the back. My girlfriend was in the back, and I got in the front. And I took her to all the lesbian bars unannounced. We showed up. We wound up at the Roxy that night. Imagine the time frame. She was wearing the Adidas Lycra dress with the Heidi braids, the blonde braids with the shell top shoes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And,
what a moment in time that describes, huh?
And she had no money on her. She didn't carry money.
Because everywhere she went, people bought stuff for her.
Right. And she drank Perrier.
Oh my God.
So,
wow.
And she hung out in Henrietta's by the ice machine that night, but a lot of people didn't recognize it because it was a new look.
That is so great.
Can you imagine, somewhere someone is going to be listening to this episode being like, wait a minute, I think I saw Madonna at Henrietta's in the 90s. I just realized. They're like, I saw that Adidas dress.
Yeah, it was.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. And as we head into Thanksgiving time, I want to start by thanking my wife, Kelsey, who has not only listened to just about every episode of this podcast for 8 seasons now, but who also is the only reason I'm able to make time to record it every week. She takes the kids, gets them dinner, and gets them ready for bed just so that Ellie and I can come on and yell about gay things into each other's faces for an hour. So here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people you're grateful for in your life, including yourself. I've been in therapy for a long time now, and one thing that's so important about therapy is how it teaches you to be more intentional. And being intentional about gratitude and how to show that to the people you appreciate is just one of the many benefits that I've gotten from therapy over the years. If you've been thinking of starting therapy, consider giving BetterHelp a try. I know how hard it can be to find time for regular therapy, and BetterHelp is designed to be flexible and convenient for your schedule. You can fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. If you want to start being more intentional about gratitude in your life, visit betterhelp.com/letshangout today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp, HELP.com/letshangout.
Let's hang out.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can be a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help you find options within your budget. Try it today at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states. For many businesses, the holiday season can be both an exciting and stressful time. With so many balls in the air, one thing you definitely want to know you can rely on is how you're selling your products. And with Shopify, you can rest easy knowing it's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. And when it comes to successful brands like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, an often overlooked secret is all the things that go on behind the scenes that make selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, if you take a peek behind that curtain, you'll see that Shopify is what makes it all possible. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, so that's more happy customers and way more sales going. It's true all the time, but especially this time of year, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use for Realm merch with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm. For many businesses, the holiday season can be both an exciting and stressful time. With so many balls in the air, one thing you definitely want to know you can rely on is how you're selling your products. And with Shopify, you can rest easy knowing it's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. And when it comes to successful brands like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, an often overlooked secret is all the things that go on behind the scenes that make selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, if you take a peek behind that curtain, you'll see that Shopify is what makes it all possible. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, so that's more happy customers and way more sales going. It's true all the time, but especially this time of year, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use for Realm merch with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
Green. So I have a really good story about Martina Navratilova, and it ties in our activism. In 1992, Colorado passed an anti-sodomy law, and people were losing their apartments, they were losing their jobs. If they fought against it, they would immediately lose stuff. You couldn't fight in Colorado. So New York founded New York Boycott Colorado. Okay, so we could fight from New York for them. So I was a part of that. And actually, the one celebrity that brought light to this particular issue was Martina Navratilova, and she spearheaded the cause. But what happened was we did boycott Colorado. They lost $90 million in reservations in 3 weeks, ski reservations. But the areas in Colorado that were losing the most money were the ones who were liberal and not against it. But you can't cherry pick who gets hurt, right? So Martina Navratilova walks in the bar, and I have these signs up. They look like the Colorado mountains. They were green and white. New York boycott. I still have them. I could send you one if you want. And
yeah, that'd be so cool.
And she looked up around, and I said, "Hey, what's up?" I had my dog with me, my little Maltese Ralphie. And she looked up around, and she goes, "You should stop the boycott." And I said, and I knew where she was going. She goes, "The spaces, the areas losing the most money are the ones who are against the law." And I said, "Well, you can't. That's not how it works. In activism, you got to stay strong. You got to keep pushing through. People get hurt. So I didn't really like that. So then she proceeded to say to me, then this was 1992, somebody should really open a lesbian bar, a non-smoking lesbian bar, which is impossible. And I said to her, and she was actually, before that, I'm screwing up the story. Before that, she asked if she could hold my dog. So she was holding my dog while we were talking. And then she made that suggestion. And I said, "Give me my dog back and don't quit your day job." And I walked away.
I feel like we have to at least mention for our listeners, though, that you're also smoking while we tell this story, which I think is really just ties it all together for us, which is perfect.
That's fine.
Oh my God. We could not have asked for better stories.
Yeah,
I know, right?
Madonna and Martina. Wow. Yeah. Oh, I have a great Melissa Etheridge story. So,
oh my God,
this was 2001. She and Julie Cypher had just broken up, and every Sunday we did live bands at Henrietta's, and they had to do all original songs. They did 2 45-minute sets, whatever band was playing. They were allowed to do 1 cover per set because I didn't want to hear covers. So I'm at a dinner party in Brooklyn, and I hear that Melissa Etheridge just walked in the bar. So I jump in, whatever. I get back to the bar. She was with Alan Cumming, and she was upset. She had literally just went through a breakup. So we're chit-chatting, blah, 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 me, her, and Alan. And the band's playing. It was called the Lauren Pellegrino Band. And they wound up, they didn't know she was there. She was in one of the little seats, the window seats. So this woman, Lauren, proceeds to do Come to My Window. And Melissa Etheridge looks at me and she goes, Can I go on stage? I said,
oh my
yeah.
God.
She snuck up behind her and tapped her. I have a picture. And tapped her on the shoulder. And the girl almost had a fucking heart attack.
Oh
and that
God.
was, let me tell you something, that was a night. And then she asked if she could do a song. And she did Piece of My Heart by Janis Joplin. And she changed the words to describe the breakup.
Wow. Oh my God, that is such a gay thing to do.
Yes. Can you
wow,
imagine
Melissa Etheridge is so gay.
Can you imagine you're on stage, doing, just doing your gig, and you start singing your 1 cover you're allowed for the evening, and it's a Melissa Etheridge song, and Melissa Etheridge shows up behind you? I mean, good Lord.
It was great, but this is the funny part. So once that was great, but once I had gotten to the bar, I said, I gotta lock the front door. I don't want any idiots coming in. And we locked the door for the band. The band's got 100% of the door. So I knock on, somebody would knock, I open, and I go, there's a band playing tonight. It's a $5 cover. They go, who's playing? I go, Melissa Etheridge. They paid the $5.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it was great. That was a really fun night. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is so crazy. I'm also trying to keep my jaw off the floor when you're just talking to Melissa and Alan.
Oh yeah.
Just,
But that's why I think it's funny too, because it's I feel like even for us, even for, people like Ellie and my age, the millennial crowd and the Gen Z crowd is I feel like there's still such a difference with how we feel about current queer celebrities, to a large extent. It's so many of them, they're our age and it's whatever, and it's but then you think about Melissa Etheridge, and I'm oh my God, Melissa Etheridge. I mean, she's an icon.
Yeah.
It's I feel like there is that there's a different tier, in some ways for certain things. Yeah.
Well, that's because we're older. We're older. And we still made it.
And therefore more worthy of being revered, obviously. So
True. Well,
There you go.
I feel like we could go on for years and years about all of the amazing times that you've had at Henrietta's. I want to just discuss for a little bit what's happening now with the bar.
Sure.
And why we need listeners to help and support.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm a bit of a political geek. I'll speak to, I won't use the name, but since the current administration at the White House,
It's okay. We'll just bleep it out if you say it.
there are a lot of accidental activists. I'm a purposeful activist. I don't espouse my political beliefs. I live them every day. And I've been doing that since I joined ACT UP in the 80s. That said, up until the past 3 years, I was kind of mocked and judged for combining politics with nightlife. Like, people used to say, like, what are you doing? Like, it's nightlife. Just leave it alone. Like, why do you got to bring politics into it? I said, it's my bar. And Henrietta Hudson has always been a platform for social change from day one. The bar is my career and it supports me, but activism is what gets me out of bed in the morning. So I saw this pandemic coming down the pike because I listened to the data and the facts and Fauci before Fauci was on the air. And I had my staff come together on March 13th, which was a Friday. I called them all in. I told them what was happening. They were shocked. They did not know that it was that severe. I got them all on unemployment before the site crashed on Monday. I closed a day before the mandate. I filed for every loan, the EIDL, the PPP, the SBA, the SBS, nothing, crickets. So that said, we're in the West Village. It's some of the most expensive real estate in the world. That's a fact. And we need to raise $20,000 per month while we're closed to satisfy the landlord. And that's where we're at. And I feel really good about it. We are, in fact, launching an online retail store in a couple of weeks. That'll be helpful. But we've had incredible success with the GoFundMe, with the Facebook fundraiser, Venmo, PayPal, you name it. People are really, really responding. I've done 6 articles already. Time Out Magazine, The Advocate was very helpful. NBC Out, Them, 2 articles in Them, Gay City News. I have an interview scheduled for June 1st for Forbes magazine, which is interesting because they interviewed me exactly a year ago for World Pride. So Let me pivot for a moment. My World Pride events were a year in the making because I don't just do Henrietta's. I do the off-premise pop-up nightclubs that I build, which was Siren and Queer on the Pier. So that was a year-long endeavor. That experience prepared me for this because I'm fighting for my life right now. And I feel good about it, but I'm working 60 hours a week right now to keep the bar open.
Yeah. And we all, as a community, I think this is to me, this is probably the most important thing. I personally love queer bars. I could not live without them. So
well, I will reopen. I will.
I love it. And to make sure that Lisa does reopen, we're going to put all of the links to the GoFundMe, the Venmo, PayPal. You can find Henrietta Hudson's on Twitter, on Instagram, at Henrietta Hudson.
We have a link tree on our Instagram, so you can pop on and pick whatever app works for you.
Perfect. It's time, I think, for our Q&Gay, right, Lee?
Yeah, we could do it.
Q and gay.
All right, so we're going to do a Q&Gay. We're going to ask you yes or no or multiple choice questions, and you just have to answer. We're going to put them on our Twitter as well. So some of them might be you already know what your answer is, but our Twitter followers might not. So
okay,
here we go. First question. Have you ever met a lesbian out in the wild? A, yes, or B, no?
I don't know what out in the wild means. I'm sorry.
Oh, just out in the world. At a bar, in the world.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
in the wild, yeah.
Yes.
In their natural habitat, which is probably at Henrietta's.
Question 2, Lisa. Have you ever been a regular at a local bar? Yes or no?
Yes.
What local bar are you a regular at besides Henrietta's?
In Brooklyn, where I used to live. In Bay Ridge,
Nice.
Brooklyn, yeah.
Nice. All right. What is your favorite thing about an LGBTQ bar? A, the drinking, B, the dancing, C, the events, or D, the people?
The people.
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, question 4. Now, again, might be a little biased answer for you, Lisa, but we're gonna put it up for our listeners as well. Question 4. What type of LGBTQ specific business would you want to own? A bar, B, clothing, C, a media company, or D, an events company?
A bar.
Good answer.
Really? Have you considered doing that? It sounds like a lot of fun.
It sounds like you'd be really good at it.
I might give it a shot.
All right, our final Q&A. Where did you celebrate your 21st birthday? This is because I celebrated mine at Henrietta's. But A, house party with friends. B, lesbian bar. C, Vegas baby. Or D, date night with my partner.
House party.
Nice.
Tell us more. Whose house?
Oh my gosh, that was so
Melissa
many years ago, right?
Melissa Etheridge's house.
My posse, you know, my tribe.
Nice. And remember, you can give us your own answers to this episode's Q&A questions on Twitter at Let's Hang Out Pod. Lisa, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I loved hearing all of your stories, and I know our listeners are going to love this episode.
Thanks for having me.
And we're hoping it encourages people to remember and cherish the lesbian and queer spaces around them, and help support them through all of this, because it is. I mean, it's just, you know, I don't think we have to keep saying, like, it's a crazy time right now, and everybody is just struggling to get by. And I think, you know, what we're seeing with this is the same thing we're seeing everywhere else, that, like, minority-owned companies, you know, bars, places, like, women-owned, queer-owned, like, those are the places that are hurting the most right now. They're the places that are always pushed out, you know, in our fun capitalist society. So
we will not let them.
We gotta keep them alive, y'all. We gotta keep them alive.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I really enjoyed this.
Let me hear you say hip, 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 well, yeah.
We love hearing from you and building community, so we want to shout out some of our favorite things each episode. And this week, we want to give a huge shout out to Leo Sheng and all of the people who came to our L-Word trivia night. Leo, who plays Micah on Generation Q, was so warm and amazing and answered so many of our questions. I knew he would be great, but he was even better when we actually got to hang out with him on Zoom. So we want to say a huge thank you to Leo. Thank you to everyone who came and hung out with us. Also would like to shout out April, also known as Fumatic, for our Portrait of a Lady on Fire video edit, because she did an incredible job, of course, and we just love it so much. We have been hoping she would be able to do a video edit for quite some time. We finally wrangled her in, and we could not be happier. We also would like to thank Sabrina Jalise, who was our guest for our tag quarantine should have been gay. She was an absolute riot. I cannot wait for you to hear her episode. So we want to say thank you for coming and hanging out with us and making me laugh more than I have ever laughed in an hour. You are in for quite the treat. We also want to shout out an email we got from one of our listeners who signed off, a great and proud baby gay listener, which we always appreciate, a proud baby gay. This is for Fernanda, who lives in South America, which I think is so cool. She's a journalist. I was talking to her a bit about my sister, who's a journalist, which I don't know how many of you know that. My sister is a journalist in San Salvador, so we were talking a little bit about that and just Fernanda's baby gay awakening. So we want to say we are so happy to be a part of your baby gay awakening. And to all you baby gays out there, we see you, we hear you, and we do answer your emails, even if they are super, super long. We will still answer them. I promise.
And as always, we want to thank our Lesbian Jesus patrons, Tanya Ferguson,
Jess Klaus,
Danny Griswold,
Sarah and Julia,
Carrie Ann Lawrence,
Mark Foster,
Danny Gunlock Tamora,
Audrey O'Connor,
Alana Rosen,
Kayla Kelly,
Tara Gleason,
and Jacqueline Rose Nishino.
And our King Princess patrons, Lizette Stye,
Amy and Ellen, Liz Shen,
and Leah Hendley.
And our favorite sponsorship patron, Wendy K. Bartlett, who wants to remind you all to support queer creators and musicians and artists at this time. Thank you, Wendy. We are very excited to announce a new event that we will be hosting called Porch Pride 2020. Anyone can participate. All you have to do is go out onto your porch or in your backyard, somewhere outside, hang out and celebrate Pride on June 20th from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will also be hosting a virtual live stream from our porches and some other porches of some featured guests that you can hang out with on our Facebook and YouTube for completely free. We want it to be a place where everyone can hang out virtually and just enjoy each other's company. Each featured porch will be featuring a charity of their choice, and you could actually personally hang out with us on our porches with virtual one-on-ones, of course, in 2 different ways. The first way is a suggested donation or completely free raffle, depending on what you can afford, and all of the proceeds from that raffle will go towards the selected charity. Or we will have 2 other time slots that will be auctioned off to the highest bidder. That way we can raise as much money as possible for these charities while also offering an option for people regardless of their financial status. Stay tuned on our social media accounts for some more guest announcements. You can also post on social media. So if you're hanging out on your porch, take a picture of yourself, post it on Twitter with the hashtag #PorchPride, and we'll share your pictures on our Instagram, Twitter. We want to see everyone celebrating. Just because we're all socially distant right now, it does not mean that we can't keep Pride alive.
Remember, you can also find us on all the social medias. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Let's Hang Out Pod.
You can email us at letshangoutpod@gmail.com.
Or you can check out our website at letshangoutpod.com.
And make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you'll be the first one to know when new episodes drop.
We're also still posting videos up on our YouTube channel. You might have caught our amazing video for our Portrait of a Lady on Fire original song that April made for us and we are in love with. And we will be having, maybe something related to that Suddenly Seymour track coming up soon. Who knows?
Cannot wait.
So make sure that you subscribe at youtube.com/Let'sHangoutPod to catch those.
If you want to support the podcast, the easiest and most free way to do so is to rate and review us on iTunes. We love hearing what you have to say and all of the glowing 5-star reviews. Thank you.
You can also join us at our Patreon. You can find it at bit.ly/lespatreon. We have been so blessed with our patrons. They are just some of the best people. You get fun perks. You get ad-free episodes. We've been trying to do some fun patron-only events through all of this as well. And it's a good queer time. We recommend it.
I know I said last week that we were only 3 patrons away from 100, and you all came through and then some. We had 8 new patrons, so I want to say a big thank you to all of our new patrons: Liz, Julia, Monica, Christy, Lee, Bethany, Alex, no one, and the ultimate crybaby. I think I got you all. I want to say a huge thank you to all of you for helping us get to over 100. We cannot wait to hang out with more of you.
If you want to follow us individually, you can find me on Instagram and on Twitter at LSHFoster.
And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at EllieBrigida. With that, I'm Ellie.
And I'm Lee. And let's hang out again soon.
Let's hang out.
Buffet brawlers, glory holes gone wrong, cannibalistic castration cabins, public poopers? These are just a few of the crazy topics you'll hear covered on Excuse Me, That's Illegal, the pettiest podcast around. Whether you need a break from all that murdery true crime stuff, or just enjoy hearing hilarious stories told in a unique way, I got what you need. I'm Leroy Luna, your fearless host/chauffeur. So come hop in my minivan and let's go for a ride. I promise you probably won't be disappointed. Excuse Me, That's Illegal is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, basically everywhere you consume podcasts, with new episodes dropping on the 10th, 20th, and 30th of the month, baby!